Yes. Terrible music, but a great podcast. It's called the Horse Racing Happy Hour, hanging out with Anthony Pascale. My name's Louis Rabeau. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Thursday edition of the program. We're previewing a preview day, Anthony, as we do so often in horse racing. These days, nice enough to join us from FanDuel is Anthony Pascale. Good day to you, sir. How are you?
I got to tell you, I actually like the music. Getting me a little pumped. So, yeah, I'm feeling it. Let's go.
That is the last remnant of the great Mike Gandolfo, who was the original host of this thing, brought me in 2019. Yes, we've been doing the show for that long, which is an absurd thing to say out loud, but here we are hanging out with Anthony ahead of the action at Churchill Downs on Saturday. Anthony, of course, this time of year, we are always watching the 3-year-olds and trying to figure out who it is that we like in that crop, etc. I think there's a good chance the best 3-year-old ran second in the Kentucky Derby this year, but, we get a winner in Golden Tempo in the Derby. We get a winner in Napoleon Solo in the Preakness. This field of 3-year-olds, I had Kevin Kilroy on from Churchill Downs last week on my radio show, and I essentially said, as a bettor, I love this 3-year-old group because they all jump up at different times. We seem to have packed gates for many of these races. What do you make of the 3-year-old group so far?
I hate when we feel like we have to judge each 3-year-old crop, especially early on in the season, and compare them to other years. What does it matter? I mean, let's just enjoy the crop that we have. Let's try to pick who's going to win each race, and then all that'll sort itself out after the fact. So I'm never one to feel like we need to judge this crop and give it a rating, especially before we even hit June. I mean, have I been thoroughly impressed by Golden Tempo? No. Did I think Renegade ran probably the best race in the Derby? Yes. Do I think Renegade should be stamped as the top 3-year-old in the country right now? No. Napoleon Solo obviously has a lot more to prove. That was not a strong Preakness. It was a good race, but it wasn't a strong field. I think there are a few horses that just did no running in that race. So this crop is going to sort itself out just like the crops do every single year. And I think what we have to look forward to is some really good racing, including what I think is a wide open Belmont, because you have to take advantage. For me, Golden Tempo took advantage of a hot pace in the Derby. And I know that the numbers, like in terms of the fractions, didn't look exceptionally fast, but everybody that was part of that early pace collapsed. And Golden Tempo came from dead last. Is he going to get other setups like that in the future because he has no early speed? Probably not. Saratoga is not the kind of course that you want to be coming from dead last far back like that. So I'd look forward to betting against him in the Belmont. With who? I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, no, it should be fun once we get that field early next week. With Golden Tempo and that need for a setup, it reminds me of, for example, with Sierra Leone never missing the board in his career, but having the same running style. How impressive a horse like Sierra Leone really is to never miss the board, doing exactly what you just described.
Yeah, but again, Sierra Leone was the kind of horse, like you said, that needed a setup. He was not going to win. And then Chad Brown eventually realized that, put in a rabbit a few times, and that certainly helped. But I mean, yeah, Golden Tempo is certainly a pace compromised kind of horse.
Have you noticed anything so far in the meet at Churchill Downs as far as the track layout and how it's playing, those sorts of things? I have told anyone who will listen, because I was amongst those who was not happy when the turf course issues were going on at Churchill Downs, how fair that turf course has been, how impressed I've been with how much we got, like a biblical amount of rain here last week, Anthony. They were still on the turf and calling it firm and all these things. Obviously, they've gotten over the hump on that. I think the turf course has been as fair a turf course as we've had, frankly, in North America since the start of 2026. The dirt course, though, how have you seen it playing? And do you see any biases in it? I mean, the dirt course at Churchill is one of the more consistent in the country.
I'm with you. I think the Churchill dirt course is one of the fairest across the country. When we get a lot of rain, I do feel like you want to be on the outside part of that racetrack more than the inside. That's my opinion more times than not. Now, there are some days where that may change slightly, but I do feel like heavy rain off racetrack, you want to be on the outside. But overall, no, I feel like the track's been playing extremely fair.
Yeah, good news is we'll have tonight's racing and tomorrow's ahead of Saturday to find out how we feel about that wet track the last couple of days, but should be some dry weather here in the area finally after, Anthony, the shame of it is I measured all the cubits and everything I built in ARC, and now it stopped raining. So it's really just, a wasted amount of effort. But my kids like the ARC, so there you go. Worked out.
The good thing for me, I was out of town. I was in Florida for the holiday weekend, and that was the one place where it was beautiful all weekend. So I missed all the rain. Sorry, not sorry.
You're not sorry at all. I was going to say, get out of here with that. I know you're not sorry, but no. Anthony, it was special. I mean, it was special. It was different, man. There was a moment. I won't lie to the audience. Sunday night, I look at my wife and I said, I got to get out of this house. So I called a couple buddies. There's a little OTB across the river here. I ran over to the OTB for the night, bet the end of the Santa Anita and Emerald Downs carts. I mean, literally just got out of the house to do that.
How about the rain that Horseshoe Indy had yesterday? So I was flying back and I'm watching, and I turned my computer on and I said, you know what? Let me watch some of the racing. What's on? Oh, Horseshoe Indy. And I'm watching just the monsoon come down. And I said, wow, this doesn't look good. I wonder if they're going to cancel. Sure enough, they had to.
It's unbelievable. This poor part of the country, man. It's certainly for the racing itself. But Anthony and I are going to handicap the Pick 6 on Saturday at Churchill Downs from the Shawnee through the Arlington. And these days, Anthony, I really like because when I talk to handicappers and people like you who are, doing the FanDuel thing, they'll say things that are very different than I will about these preview sorts of days that, people are shooting for the next thing. They're not all the way cranked, that kind of thing. When you look at weekends like this, are you looking for a horse that's thinking about the next step, or are you looking at a bunch of horses that, hey, these are all graded stakes, they're trying to get wins?
Yeah. So when I'm based in Gulfstream for the winter and we have prep races, preview days, I do sometimes think some trainers will give their horses races in some of those Gulfstream races and prep for like a Keeneland or a Churchill. But here at Churchill, no. I mean, if you look at this card, many of the horses are coming back after running on Derby Day. So no, I don't think this is one of those kind of days where you're trying to save your horse for the next big one. I think everyone's trying to win these races.
All right, let's get into it. The Shawnee is the first race we'll be talking about here on the program. Anthony with us, of course, from FanDuel, at FanDuel Anthony on the socials if you want to go find him there. Mile and a 16th on the dirt course here. We get the return of Splendora. We saw her in the Grade 1 Derby City Distaff, speaking of horses that ran during Derby week. Distance, a question for her for sure. 0 for 1 at a mile and a 16th. That was in the Santa Maria last April under Juan Hernandez at Santa Anita Park. Picks up Flavian Pratt here. Do you like the move to 8.5 furlongs for her?
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, two of her best races were at 2 turns, one at a mile at Santa Anita in the Beholder Mile, and the other one around 2 turns at a mile at Del Mar. An extra 16th of a mile, she seems bred for it. She's by Audible. And I just don't see an issue with the distance. I thought she ran, okay in the Grade 1 Derby City Distaff. Her barnmate, Usha, came right back to win over the weekend, won the winning colors at Churchill. So already we've seen one horse come out of that race to win. I just think she's better than these. And I think maybe she needed that race, or it was her first race over the Churchill Downs strip. She's been training here since then. So I'm expecting a much better effort from her. And the thing about this pick 6, it's not my favorite bet, the 20-cent pick 6, but when I do like to play it, I like to play it with a single in the first leg, so that if I get tossed out, I can come right back with a pick 5. No harm, no foul.
So to use Splendora, the single in the sequence, then
she is, because I don't know where else would you go in here. I think
Immersive's really interesting just because she's been good at Churchill. She's been good in races like the Seneca Overnight. But essentially what I'm hearing from you is, hey, Splendora's a Grade 1 winner, and this is not the Seneca Freakin' Overnight.
Yeah, I mean, Immersive is not the horse she once was. I mean, she was very precocious as a young horse, and she just hasn't really gotten that much better. I mean, she's gotten a little better, but not that much better. I just don't think she's really that good. Whereas Splendora, I still think as a 5-year-old could still be and show her best form.
Someone like a Majestic Oops not doing it for you out of the Motto Barn, I imagine.
I just thought that race 2 back over the Oaklawn sloppy track was aided by the off track when she beat Nitrogen. I mean, it wasn't a bad race in the Apple Blossom, but she's got to come from a little off it. She would probably be maybe an underneath horse for me, but I don't think she's as good as Splendora.
I'll put it this way. I have Splendora on top. I have Miss Justify second here, and she's 2 for 3 at Churchill. I think she actually makes more sense, and you're going to get a way better value on her in this spot. Has won at the distance over this course as well. I think if you wanted to go outside of the box of Splendora, I think you go to Miss Justify this one.
I'm not going to argue there. I mean, she's won at this distance before. She's won twice over this racetrack. She can stalk, which I think she'll probably need to do in here. So no, the 3 is not a hopeless long shot in my opinion.
The Mint Julep is race 7, starts that late pick 5 in case you do get bounced out of this, the pick 6 there. Mile 16th on the turf course here, 4 and up on the filly and mare side of things. Grade 3s at Churchill run for $275,000 these days. Pit Up Betty, the old horse for course in this spot here, but Maduro and that West Coast speed is always appealing to me. I've got a long shot I like in here too, but is a horse like Pit Up Betty, does that matter to you? Or, coming out of that, Jenny Wiley, a good 5th, but only by 2 lengths, tries the Distaff Turf Mile last time at Churchill, picks up Flavian Prater. Does she make sense to you?
She's a horse that was in really good form going back to last summer, but I don't see it as much now. She just doesn't seem as good as she was. Maybe she'll step up on Saturday, but I think her record is a little misleading in the fact that, those wins came when she was in really good form. I just don't know that we have the same Pin Up Betty anymore.
Pin Up Betty will break from the 3 again. Mike Maker and Flavian Pratt together. They've won 2 of their 9 starts together at Churchill Downs. Maduro, that West Coast speed of which I speak, barely missed in the Jenny Wiley for Peter Urton. Gets Jose Ortiz back, who was aboard for the Krantz Memorial down there at Fairgrounds. Now, that was with Lasix. This horse has not won without Lasix since the Osanitas. That was back in July of last year. What do you make of Maduro in this spot?
The Lasix isn't an issue for me because she still ran her heart out last time out. She still ran what could be a winning race in here. So that Lasix issue is not an issue for me. My question is, she's going to have to work out a perfect trip. The horse that's going to win this race is going to get the best trip because a lot of these horses will exchange wins on any given day. These horses are very evenly matched. So if Jose Ortiz can work out a trip with Maduro, which he should be able to do from that 4 post, I think she's one of the horses that can win this race, but at a short price, I would try to play against her. I mean, I'm looking at a horse like Proctor Street, who got held up at the top of the stretch in the Modesty last time out, had to wait for running room. And boy, when she got room, she came flying on the inside. Now, the horses to her outside had the momentum and went by her, but those are still 2 nice horses. Jazora was the Breeders' Cup winner who was coming back off the layoff. So again, Proctor Street with needing to find a trip. She is certainly capable on her best day. And on these big days, Brendan Walsh's horses fire. And I would not be surprised if Proctor Street runs a huge race on Saturday.
Proctor Street, a 5-year-old daughter of Street Ascents. I like a long shot in here and in the star, second up in this form cycle for Rusty Arnold, who's had a nice start to the meet there. Pepper on the board at Churchill Downs. Luis Saez keeps the mount here. This is one that's won in allowance company a couple of times at Keeneland. What do you make of her at 10-1?
I've always liked her. I've actually caught her a couple of times. So I feel like, yes, she's definitely a nice filly. The question is she this caliber of a filly? I mean, the last time she took on Graded Stakes Company, she did not fare well. So my worry is that she's a little dressed up because she runs well against allowance company, but now against stakes company, I just don't know that she's there yet. Maybe eventually, but against this field, I think these are some tough knocking horses, fillies and mares. And listen, you're going to get a price, so I would not tell you, to stay away, but I do feel like she's up against it in terms of the competition.
Late pick 4 will start with race 8. It is the Aristides, another grade 3, 6 furlongs on the dirt, $275,000 on the line. You need to be 4 years old or older to run in this one. And this one, these are the kinds of races I live for, Anthony, as far as covering the sport. And that just the $3,000 breeding job on Roll On Big Joe versus the $1 million plus purchase out of the Baffert barn. I love this kind of stuff. Sprinting in our sport seems to really level the playing field for this kind of thing. Would you lean on a Roll On Big Joe? Would you lean on a cornucopian, or would you look somewhere else?
I mean, first things first, if we've learned anything, we've learned that, sales prices don't really matter anymore. I mean, you buy a horse for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and they could turn out to win a race. So yeah, so while it's nice and flashy, and it's nice to mention when we see these expensive horses go on the screen, but at the end of the day, after they've run their first few races, what does it matter what they cost? In this race, you really have to look at the pace scenario. You have Roll On Big Joe and Madhouse coming in out of the same race, where Madhouse got the best of Roll On Big Joe down at Oaklawn Park. Madhouse was able to get the lead. And from the rail, Paco's going to have to send again with Madhouse. So don't we see a situation where the 1 and 3 are kind of at it from the start? And that's why I thought Cornucopian made the most sense, because if the 1 and 3 are going at it on the front end, doesn't Cornucopian just sit a perfect trip?
He probably does. I think he'll be in that kind of spot. Another horse that is going to try for the lead here is the Other Baffert, which is an interesting thing to say, but here we are in Kentucky in 2026, and there's Other Bafferts. In Matticat Road, he's going to try to get to the lead. We saw him pressing the pace back in the Malibu, the Grade 1 event, of course, right after Christmas there at Santa Anita Park. First race was right after the Kentucky Derby and the week after under Irad Ortiz Jr. Wheels him back here. Does Matticat Road make sense? Because I think he does.
I just wasn't that impressed with the race he ran last time out. I mean, he had only won the maiden race before that, so finally broke through with the allowance win. I don't know. That was not a tough field that he faced that day, and he was all out to win. You mentioned that he could be used to maybe press the pace here. If he does, again, I think it sets it up for the Other Baffert. I don't see, could Matticat Road get a nice stalking trip right behind the speed? Yeah, I guess. But at the end of the day, if it's Matticat Road versus Cornucopian, I'm taking Cornucopian every time.
What do you make of Durante? Wins the Nehrude last out in a smaller field, 6 horses total there at Aqueduct. The Grade 3 event there. In the Grade 2 Phoenix, though, last year almost picked off the thing at 17-1 at Keeneland. Tyler Gaffalione gets back aboard. He was aboard for that run in the Phoenix. What do we make? You give him much of a shot?
He's just never run faster than like a 90 buyer speed figure in the last couple of years. And that's just not going to cut it here. He's taken advantage of when, in some other stakes races where the big dogs didn't show up. But Durante would be a surprise to me. David Jacobson is certainly capable of pulling off surprises. He has in the past. But I just don't know, right. But with the Bafferts in here, I just don't think Durante is breathes the same air as Cornucopian.
All right. So we're talking pick 6 here. Are you including the 1, 2, and 3 in here? Are you just playing Cornucopian? Like how deep are we going?
Cornucopian would be a single for me. And the other thing is if the pace totally collapses, I guess Durante, but even more than the Durante, Tejano Twist would be a horse that I would use underneath because he always comes.
He always comes with a run, and he has been great this year. 5 runs in the trifecta in 6 runs. I get it; it's not at Breeders' Cup levels or whatever, but he's been very, very competitive in the races where he's been spotted.
And we should get a hot pace, and that's what he needs.
Yeah, he definitely needs that for sure. Did win the Grade 3 Whitmore back in March. Did Tejano Twist, a bit of an Oaklawn specialist himself. We're talking with Anthony Pascale. He's from FanDuel. Appreciate him jumping on the podcast here. Of course, it is Stephen Foster Preview Day on Saturday. Late Pick 3 features a pair of turf stakes, and this is the first one, the Grade 3 Regret for 3-year-old fillies. Continues that 3-year-old filly series on the turf here at Churchill Downs, 1 1/8 over there. We mentioned the turf course and how fairly it's been playing, Anthony. And we've got a bunch in here at different prices, but the 2 outside horses coming out of that Edgewood at Keeneland, we always hold that up as the early season 3-year-old race for fillies on the turf here. Should we lean on one of those runners, or are you going to try to get away from the Edgewood horses?
Yeah, I think Tam Tam is very dangerous. With the outside post, I think Junior Alvarado should be able to stalk whoever makes the lead in here. This horse has turned into a totally different animal. She was one of those horses that up at Saratoga over the summer, everybody was talking about. She had been working so well. And then she debuted. She went off a heavy favorite. She made the lead, and she just gave up a big lead at the top of the stretch. And they couldn't get her to win on the dirt. She just was not showing the brilliance that she was showing in the morning. So they took her to turf, and all of a sudden, she's run huge in all 3 of her turf races. She's 2 for 3. She's a head away from being a Grade 2 winner. She's a horse who just keeps getting better and better. She has the ability to make the lead or to stalk the pace. That's very dangerous for a turf horse. And I feel like she should get a good trip in here. So Tam Tam is a horse that I think is going to be a part of this number because a few of these horses, like to come from way back, like Storm's Wake for Brian Lynch. Totally needs a pace setup, was way too far back last time out in the Edgewood, but I worry that could happen again. Dandana is another horse for Safi Joseph, whose horses have been running out of their skin lately. So Dandona is a horse, if you think the pace is going to collapse, she's a horse I would need on my ticket.
I'm I've got her on top, actually, Dandona. I've got her on top here. I think going to IRED makes a ton of sense, and she's an every other type, man, and this is the every other, and I don't love that as an angle for handicapping, but there are some horses that are just straight up every other types, and I didn't love her effort in the Edgewood, but not everybody loves every turf course, and if she can be good enough to win the Florida Oaks, I think she can be good enough in this spot.
Yeah, I'm a big Thorograph guy, and
Yep.
Dandona actually ran the same figure in the Florida Oaks as she did in the Edgewood.
Okay.
So
Interesting. Yeah.
I also thought you needed the one in there, Indigo Woods for Brendan.
I was just going to ask you about her, actually.
Nice trip from the inside.
Yeah, I think actually, in a weird way, usually, you look at the rail draw and you think, is that going to be good or not? I think for her, it'll actually force Tyler to be part of the earlier pace, right? So this one won't fall as far back as she has been in previous races. I think she just had too much to do in that Edgewood.
She did, and I love the rail on turf race. I mean, the name of the game in turf races is saving ground. Tyler knows that, and I think that's what he's going to be able to do with Indigo Woods. But I don't think this is the kind of horse who's going to be incredibly far back, but we'll see.
The Blame is up next. We get 8 horses in here, and this is the preview for the Stephen Foster itself. And Anthony, we know all of the headlines now around the Stephen Foster, and thank God for it. We know the 4 major contenders that'll making their way here, including a Sovereignty and a Magnitude and a Skippy and all those kinds of horses. Is there a horse in this field that you think can push that older field in a month?
Is there a horse in here that could push that field? I would say a resounding absolutely not.
Okay, so
how's that?
The interesting thing about this field is we have a horse in here that you do not have to go deep and make, Hit Show has the win, right? And the check of anyone in this field. And frankly, we'll have the win and the check of anyone outside of Magnitude in the Stephen Foster if the horse runs in the Stephen Foster. But then you have a horse like Rattle and Roll. You have these other horses where it's not a what could have been type, but rather just a where you been maybe, or what can you do kind of type in here. How surprised were you that the morning line maker decided that Vibe on the outside would be the 9-5 favorite?
Well, he's certainly the fresh face, right? Comes in off 3 resounding wins, improving buyer speed figures. I mean, here's a horse, talk about sales price. They paid $3 million for her. So I guess there could be the thought maybe this horse is just figuring it out and getting better and better, and he could be the new shooter. At a short price, I would bet against Vibe every day of the week. I mean, this is the first time that Vibe's got to go 2 turns. And that's something that matters to me in terms of taking a short price on a horse. We'll see. The fields that he's beaten so far come nowhere close to what he's facing today. So Vibe's not going to be on my ticket. I thought
so you try to beat Vibe in this spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Hit Show made a lot of sense in terms of being able to work out a nice trip from the inside. Is 5 for 13 at the distance, has run well over this racetrack. Obviously, the connections are a play. But the horse that's interesting to me is the 2 Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And part of the reason is I am just so impressed by what Steve Asmussen does with his horses, with his older horses. Like Steve's the winningest trainer in the U.S. of all time, right? He's never won a Derby. It's the early prep races and stuff. It just hasn't been his forte. But he gets these horses to really flourish. Look what he's done with Magnitude. Look what Gunrunner became later on. Look what Curlin became. It's just he is so good with these older horses. And I wonder if Hall of Fame's now going to be one of those horses that in his 5-year-old season, maybe this is the year that he breaks through. I mean, that race, the Churchill Downs, was obviously a crazy tough race. It came back very fast. And he was off a layoff. That was a throwout race for him. I think he got what he needed out of that race. Now, second off the layoff, I think Hall of Fame's going to run big on Saturday. And if he doesn't need to run that much faster than he's run in the past, if you look at some of his races from 2025, he ran 3 buyer speed figures above 100, even more than that, actually, 5. So that's what you're going to need to win this race. And I feel like he's certainly capable.
Fascinating stuff. Hall of Fame has won at the track before, 5 total runs here. Tried that Churchill Downs, as you mentioned last time at the 7 furlongs. He was 34-1 for a reason. And frankly, I don't know that like Whitmore would have caught T.O. Elvis that day. Like he was just absolutely flying in that race. And so might not have mattered who was on the track with him at all. Rattle and roll 4-1 here. Kenny McPeak making all these rider changes away from Brian. Do you make much of him here? He is 0-2 this year. I thought his Ben Ali, frankly, was pretty concerning.
I agree. When you see a horse that's older, 7 years old now, and then throws in a clunker like that, I mean, do you really want to take a shortish price on a horse that's got to totally turn things around? Not for me.
Yeah. What do you make of Capital Idea in here? This is a horse that's won at a mile and a 16th at Churchill. It was in the slop, has to go the mile and an eighth here, has not done a ton of running at the 9 furlong distance, but was a good second in the Go Sapper to a horse in Grande that people think can have a very, very good season here. Capital Idea maybe underneath, or a potential upset?
Yeah, he'd be an underneath horse. I wouldn't be including him in my multis, but certainly could sit a good trip and could come pick up the pieces late.
Are you just 2 and 3 in here then?
I am just 2 and 3.
You are the cheapest pick 6 date I've ever had. How about that? I like that.
Yeah, because you know a lot of these races, you're going to have short. When I have strong opinions in these races, I can go wider in the others when I think there may be chaos.
No, I get it. And frankly, it is these days, Anthony, too, where we hope for chaos. And it tends to be that the best horses win these races, right? And so
you say you hope for chaos. I mean, a lot of chaos is exactly, what throws everything out the door. So no, we don't want too much chaos, but we want, I guess, predictable chaos, right?
There you are, just enough. Yeah, I live with 5 other people, Anthony. I'm used to a little chaos. All right, the closer on Saturday.
I'm sure.
Yeah, is the Arlington. We're back to the turf course for this one. Mile and a 16th there. 4 and up on this race here. And names that people have seen for a long time. You got the 6-year-old Anglophile in here. West Hollywood is back off of a nice run in the opening verse. Almost got there under Flavian Pratt. But a horse that has really figured it out, and you mentioned a guy who's good at getting horses better as they get older, and that is Laganos for Steve Asmussen. Just another example here, Anthony.
Yeah, exactly. Add that to the list. Laganos looking for 4 in a row on Saturday. He's a horse that I can understand some people that would single him in their multi-race sequences. Certainly wouldn't argue against that. He's certainly been in great form and is certainly capable on his day. The question after each win, though, you have to wonder, was he really good in the winter? Will he be really good in the summer too? Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. These horses are not machines. They only have a certain number of top efforts in them. And with every other win, you have to worry, okay, is the regression coming? So that would be my concern with Laganos.
Laganos inside, brilliant birdie outside. I really like this one here. Very good at Churchill Downs. Hasn't been here, though, since June of 2025, and that was in the Wise Dan, which the horse won under Brian Hernandez Jr. Gets them out here for Cherie DeVoe. What do you make of brilliant birdie in this spot?
I make that his last couple of races were just not that good. I know they were against tough company, but the race against Laganos 2 back, that was off a layoff, so maybe he had an excuse. Was never really a part of the Maker's Mark Mile. Again, that was grade 1 company. He's a horse that you can't ignore, being 5 for 6 over the Churchill Downs turf and with 1 second place finish. So if you believe in horses being sometimes a horse for course, this is a perfect candidate. And I just don't see how you leave Brilliant Birdie off the ticket, considering the fact that he just really seems to like it at Churchill and has run plenty of races that would fit really well here.
No doubt about it. Cole Battle's going to try the turf here for Lonnie Briley. And I got to ask you, Anthony, because I'm not a trainer, and thank God I'm not. I don't know that I could do the 4 o'clock thing every day, but 3rd in the Matt Win, 2nd in the Indiana Derby, 2nd in the Lake Cheetah. Am I missing something? Isn't this horse competitive in these dirt races, especially if we're willing for a $70,000? I mean, I bring up the economics only for this reason. A $70,000 purchase that you bred for $4,000, picking off a bunch of listed stakes and grade 3s is okay, by the way. Like, that's an okay thing. It's an okay place to be. Are you surprised to see this one on the turf?
I guess I wouldn't be if they didn't try to run him twice on the grass as a 2-year-old. So there's something about this horse that they think says turf, being the fact that that's where they went immediately after the maiden win early on in the 2-year-old season. So maybe they feel like his races on the turf as a 2-year-old were okay, maybe he's a better horse now and he'll be even better on the turf today. I guess that could be some kind of thought. He certainly doesn't seem like the kind of horse who's going to be winning grade 1 or grade 2 races on the dirt. So maybe they want to see where he fares there. Could they also have entered thinking, hey, if the race comes off the turf, we'd be in a really good situation? That's a possibility too.
Sure. Yeah. No,
he won't be on my tickets.
I get it. I also think those of us who are handicapping, we underestimate the trying to get a graded stakes into a horse as well, right? I mean, like that is at 3, at 4, at 2, whatever, you hear that all the time for different purposes. And so it would make sense on that front as well. Is there a long shot in here you might look at? Is it a Mazzaro? Is it a Minaret Station? Does anybody stand out as a potential? Because I think Minaret Station is actually really interesting here.
I did not go to Minaret Station. The interesting horse to me would be Beach Gold, who has run some bang-up races.
Okay.
It was a decent third in the Appleton at Gulfstream. Coming back here to a distance that he's 2 for 5 at, 4 for 5 in the money. I feel like he's a horse who can make his own trip. He has the ability to kind of sit behind the speed and stalk. And Beach Gold for a long shot. That's a horse that will be on my tickets.
Beach Gold will break from the 4. Keith Asmussen gets the mount for Patrick Biancone, his future father-in-law. And anyone else that you would include on your tickets here? So you've got at least the 4 horse. Of course, you're going to have Laganos, the 3. Anyone else going to make your ticket for pick?
I went 3, 4, 7, 9, 10. So that would be the 7 as well.
Okay.
Mercanti. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about Mercanti. What do we make of this horse? This is one that, when he's good gosh, get out of the way. Did win this race in 2025. Are we hoping for a return to form there, essentially, Joe?
I mean, if you look at his recent races, you can make excuses. I mean, the last time out, that was a grade 1. The race before that, he just missed in over the synthetic at Turfway, and that was off a layoff. So now you're 3rd race back off the layoff, which oftentimes provides a top effort. And he's proven over this turf course. He's proven that he can, on his best day, run with the big dogs. And at 6 years old, there's no reason to think that he might not have another big shot. So that's why I wanted him on the ticket.
There you go. Well, he's Anthony Pascale. What's your next big assignment there, guy? What are you doing? What you working on?
I am strictly Churchill Downs for the next month. This will be the final month from Churchill Downs. So I will be here for the entire month, and it's going to be a great way to go out. We'll go out with a bang, Stephen Foster.
There you go. All right, he's Anthony Pascale. Catch all of their coverage over there at FanDuel. Anthony, appreciate you very much.
Always great to talk to you. Good luck, and I'll see you at the track.
Yeah, we will see you on Saturday out there. Churchill Downs, preview day for the Stephen Foster. All those stakes, we didn't even mention the Audubon. That's another one. They could have a pick 7 of just stakes there on Saturday. But I'm Louie, he's Anthony. We'll catch you next week. Horse Racing.